Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connections, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics. With me today is Mr. Simon Lever. He's a retired headhunter, recruitment executive turned creative writer and storyteller. He champions positivity, empathy, and kindness and spreads that message through the many blogs and stories he regularly shares with the world. He's joining me today from his hometown of Westchester, England, which also makes this the first transcontinental interview of Back to Basics. Hello, Simon, and welcome.
Hello, Leticia. Welcome to you too. It's a privilege.
Well, I'm so excited, and I always like to brief the audience sometimes about how I connect with these amazing people. And we connected through LinkedIn, through one of your beautiful posts.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And
LinkedIn's a great platform.
Yeah, we might talk a little bit about that. But yes, I agree with you. You meet so many interesting people, and we've exchanged a few WhatsApps. And I already feel like I know you, although I don't know you. This is the first time we speak. But but just through your readings and what you write, it's pretty amazing. And so besides the fact that you are in the United Kingdom, and that brings a worldly perspective into the show, which I love. You also have had, what it seems a very fulfilling and full life journey. So I'm very excited to hear about it. And tell me about Westchester. Tell me about your childhood and just, share a bit of who you are with us.
I'd love to. Actually, my early days, it's all documented, much to my male ego on Bizcatalyst and also on the Divine Breadcrumb. I had a very an enjoyable childhood. I have photos which still amaze me, apart from the fact I look much younger. 5 years old, 5 years old, I was having a great time living in Birmingham, England, but no accent, and had fantastic schooling. I went to boarding school when I was 10 years old, Kingwell Court School, and in Bradford-upon Avon in Wiltshire. And the motto of that school is delightful. I still use it, as does my son. And it's be strong gently with an Indian elephant and its trunk down, because Indian elephants have this delightful passive look about them. And so that's the beginning of my schooling. Then the next boarding school was Allenwood Manor, where I was there for a couple of years before returning to Birmingham for grammar school. And Allenwood Manor was quite interesting. The headmaster there had us all in the auditorium to do a talk. And he had this piece of paper in front of him. He said, "Look, I have an announcement to make. The palace has asked if Prince Charles can attend Allenwood Manor." And we all looked at each other and said, yes. Anyway, they said, "Well, unfortunately, we've turned it down because of the security aspects." And we were all incredibly sad. But there we are. And then, I went back to Birmingham, went to grammar school, and onward from there, eventually into business. And in 1979, I joined a company called Strategist Computer Recruitment. And I was successful. It was enjoyable meeting people, which I've always loved. And then in 1981, they were looking to open up an office in Amsterdam. They'd already opened an office in Brussels and Amsterdam. So basically, I got the job after making a secretary swear to secrecy, because after each interview with the directors, I wrote down what I thought, what I had, what I didn't have, why I was interested, why they should be interested. And this happened 3 times and I got the job. And I used to tell candidates to do that. And in those days, it was written. no emails basically. And I used to say, look, just write a letter saying, thank you. I love the idea of the job. I need training here, but I want to do it. And that worked well, very well. And then from Amsterdam, it was pretty incredible because in those days, we used advertising rather than headhunting. And advertising, I think we became the largest recruitment advertiser in the Netherlands, which is, in those days, it was quite spectacular. And that, I suppose, sparked off my writing skills. And I used to go off to clients, wherever they may be, and I used to take lots of notes. And I used to brief myself on the client. So they say, what do you know about us? And I used to reel off this history. And they used to look, and because it's not usual, it probably is now, but I used to do that. And I used to go back to the airport. And by the time I'd left, I'd typed out all my notes and emailed it to the client. So they couldn't figure out how it was done, but there we are. This is the early days of technology, of course. From there, I actually had asked to set up a company in Denmark, which I must admit I didn't like, but they took the family over there as well. And the company was failed, and they asked me to relaunch it, which I did, and it also became the biggest advertiser in Denmark.
Wow.
From there, we decided we'll go back to the Netherlands. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have a job in the Netherlands, but I phoned up a contact who used to work for a company called Computable, in the Netherlands. And I phoned up this chap, Siep Coupens, and I said, look, because I used to use the company for advertising. I said, look, do you know where I could get a job here? And he said, I'll get the director to phone. And the director, Eric, phoned me, and he said, look, I've heard about your background. We've no idea what we're going to pay you, but you're hired.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so I set up another computer recruitment operation, which was incredibly successful. So I was there for a few years. Then a client, System Software Associates, now Infor, headhunted me, saying, come and work for us. So we went back to the UK. This is 1996, 97, back to the UK. And that was in-house headhunting. And it was fantastic. So I used to travel around all over Europe, to Italy, hiring a country manager, France, hiring a country manager, Sweden, Hungary, all over the place. And Richard Morgan Evans, he used to get first class, of course, on the airline. He said, no, you go up there with the hens and the chickens and the straw bales. But ultimately, when I went self-employed, because the company was taken over, I was self-employed, and I still used to travel extensively. A client meeting, I'd just jump on a plane and go and see them, because I knew, it sounds awfully arrogant, but I knew I'd get the business, which I did. And it was just, but then I had seat 1C in the aeroplane, which is always nice. And one unforgettable moment was when I had a flight to go to Stockholm. And in those days, the captain's cabin was open. And one of the air hostesses said, would you like to go to the captain's cabin and see the Northern Lights? So I went to the captain's cabin. Incredible. They said, look, over there, just over there, Northern Lights. Absolutely spectacular, honestly. And that's just amazing, being in the front seat of a BA flight. Also, I did a lot of business in Belgium. And one of my descriptions I put on Bizcatalyst was Son et Lumière in the Grand Place. And that's sound and music. And light and music. And one evening, standing in the Grand Place, everything went dark. I thought, what's going on? And there were obviously people from Brussels who knew what was going on, because the typical Englishman abroad know. And suddenly the lights shone up on the buildings, all over, beautiful buildings, lights going up and down. Then there's music from Vangelis, called 1492, Paradise Conquered, and I can still hum it now, but it's just spectacular. And after it had finished, I dashed into a little brasserie. I said, "What's the music? I've got to know." And they said, "That's Vangelis, 1492." And I still have the tape. When I had my Jeep Cherokee, I had the Rolling Stones, Rachmaninoff, and would you believe 1492. So
that's so special. I love it. I love how you tell stories. I can tell definitely you're a storyteller because you tell these and in your writing too, which of course will be shared where you can read Simon's writings, but all these details that really transport you to, like, I could feel the music now, but just by the way you're describing it, it's quite special.
It's really super. I mean, even when as a child, I've got photos going back to when I was about 3 years old, and I remember the photographer taking the photo. I can go back to when I was a very small kid, walking through a little stream with my brother, and I can hear the water, and we saw a kingfisher, and it's still in my eyes, so I can write these things down. When I write them, they're visual to me.
That's so special. I think now that, I'm doing a mindfulness practice and there's this push about being here in the now. It sounds to me that from very early on, you're being able to be in the now and to really take in everything you're seeing and experiencing. And that's why probably you're able to share it so profoundly.
Yes, that is true. When I'm writing, I can't just write. If I have to write something, Community magazine, writing the spring article in the middle of winter can be a bit challenging. But I just go out and walk along the rivers and Keats River, his favourite river, the poet Keats, walk around there and look up at the trees, whether they got leaves on or not. And gradually the inspiration hits me, and I dash back home and start typing on the old BlackBerry. And so inspiration is important.
Of course. And it sounds to me, would you say that you fell into a career that really allow you to showcase your passion? I can tell you love, and you say you love connecting with people. You love that interaction. So that it sounds to me that recruiting and headhunting is perfect for that. Just identifying qualities in people.
Yes, indeed. It was delightful. I love meeting people from different countries and different cultures. And I have so many anecdotes about trips to, say, Paris. If I can tell you a little story there.
Absolutely, of course. Okay. This is what this is for.
All right. In Paris, I used to stay at a hotel near the Eiffel Tower, Avenue de Citroën, and to get to a place for a nice coffee or a little something to eat, I used to go up Rue Saint-Michel, and then you gradually get up to the most well-known road in Paris, which is Rue Saint-Germain. And we sit there at a little cafe called Les Deux Margots, which sounds like the two maggots. We used to sit there watching the world go around and having a coffee. And the waiters were charming because French waiters are not arrogant, they are proud. And then opposite, there's this brasserie called Brasserie Lippe. Mm-hmm. And even the Parisians will say, it is the most arrogant cafe you can ever go to. Anyway, I went in there with my business colleague, and the waiter, you could always tell, although we had our Hermes ties on, we could have passed off for French, I suppose. And we were told to go upstairs because only the Parisians can sit downstairs. So we went upstairs, and there were tables vacant at the window. And my colleague said, "Look, we'll sit by the window." Monsieur, impossible. So in the end, my colleague just went and we sat down by the window. And the waiter, he had a face like a horse. It was a long face. I've never witnessed such a miserable face in all my life. He came up to our table. He had his notepad and pen, and he looked terribly furious. He looked really furious. His head, his chin kept elongating. And so I thought, goodness, he could hit the table. Anyway, I thought, I'm going to take a big risk, life-threatening risk. And I'm going to say something in English to this waiter. And I looked up at him. I said, "Monsieur, do you ever smile?" The pen did not move from the paper. His face did not move, and he said, "No, monsieur, I never smile."
Oh, wow.
And from there, we had him laughing. So that was...
That is interesting. Yeah, well, it's part of what you say in many of your posts about trying to stay positive and trying to spread kindness, and you had a post also with with what's going on in COVID, and I think that's why you have quite a following in LinkedIn, and I think there's, in a time where people want more of that, it's easy to, like, when you post something, I see it's like, oh my God, he has so many likes and this, and it's really hard lifting. For me, has been hard lifting because, as you know, I post a lot about work. I post a little bit of different things, but you put a picture and you just can say something about what you see in nature, and it touches so many people. You definitely tells that there's the need for that message.
I think there is a need. Positivity, it's something we can take for granted. But I always say, well, what's the opposite of positivity? It's negativity. And negativity, there is only one way, and that's down. Now, if you see somebody who's a little bit sad or depressed, if I'm walking along the road or along the river, sometimes I always say hello anyway, unless somebody's really got their head pointing to the ground. I always say hello. And sometimes you can say, well, I'm going to take this a second further. And I say, beautiful weather, river. And suddenly their eyes will light up. And then you have engagement and kindness. And from kindness, you have empathy. And from empathy, you can go to positivity. So it's always a mission. I go into a cafe and there's a waiter or a waitress there looking really miserable. And I said, I am sure if you smile, your face will light up. And it does. So it's always a mission. If you see somebody sad who spends all day serving people, doing a good job, I can't leave it. You know, it's just done in a very gentle way. It mustn't be insulting or patronizing. So, it's special. But as for meeting people, I can't not engage with people. I get very bored. So one of the things I do, which means I can meet people from all over the world, I was asked if I'd like to be a steward at Winchester Cathedral. And I started off as a steward, welcoming people at their main entrance from all over the world: French, Polish, German, Dutch, American. And I used to say 1,000 years old, which makes me feel incredibly young. And I used to get, people would smile. Apparently, this sounds awfully arrogant, apparently my style was quite different and people used to like it. And I did that for a while, about 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, two
Wow.
hours. And then we had this amazing exhibition called Kings and Scribes, Birth of a Nation. And that's a relatively new exhibition. It's won awards. And there I literally walk people through history. There's a 900-year-old Bible, completely illuminated, looks like new. And it's called Old Latin, which is, the translation was from Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, would you believe? And people are just stunned by the artifacts and amazing things in that exhibition. And I can't wait to get back because it's because of the COVID, only private prayers are allowed. So I occasionally pop in and say hello to reception. So, but everybody has masks on; you can't recognise anybody.
I know it's definitely, it is a very different way to live. And hopefully it soon will be over. But to me, what it's really striking, and as you know, in Back to Basics is, in this podcast, I try to inspire others to reconnect with what they're passionate about. And what I love about you, and really about all the guests, because if I have one requirement, people sometimes I invite them on the show and they get afraid, like, what am I going to talk about? Look, listen, if I inviting you is because you have done something that has inspired me, which hopefully inspires others. So
I hope so.
So that's the whole point of this show, is to help people get unstuck sometimes, because I feel we go like on automatic pilot through life, a lot of us, and just we forget to see those little things that you're mentioning, like the lights on the plane or the music that was playing or those little things that really make the difference, because they are the ones that create this feeling inside of us, this warm feeling. And you say, I'm enjoying this. What is it? And then you say, oh, it's the music that's playing. But we take that for granted, those things.
I think we do, yes. Yeah. But I suppose currently, because Dame Judi Dench, the one that was shot in a James Bond film, I'm very sad about that. But Dame Judi Dench used to say retirement is a dirty word. She's still acting, and she's about 85 years old. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm retired, but I'm almost busier now than I was working. And what I do is basically I love engaging with people on LinkedIn, Bizcatalyst, of course, and The Divine Breadcrumb. Carol Campos of Greater Boston, she created that about more than 2 years ago. And that's fantastic. It's a platform that has so many descriptions from men and women all over the world. Some of them are quite emotional, but in essence, it's an upbeat, positive platform. Same with Bizcatalyst, Dennis Pitoko. That also is quite something, because that was good, because I can write as much as I like. So I can write 2 lines, or I can write 50 pages, which suits me very fine. It's often joked that when anybody else can do a script or description in 1 paragraph, it comes out as about 3 pages for me. But that is because I tend to go into descriptions, creative emotion, if you like. I do. It's not automatic writing, because that's a different concept. But this is creative writing, which means when I'm tapping it out on my BlackBerry or whatever, I'm on a different plane, a different planet, if you like. And when I finished it, I sometimes look at it and think, hold on, I didn't write this. Now, again, that sounds awfully male ego arrogant, but that's quite surprising for me. When I read something a day after, I don't recognize it. And that's quite special.
That is special. I can definitely relate to that you were in a different place, inspired place, and that's where the words are coming from. And I can say that, I think you're a fantastic writer, and that have that ability that transport people to other places and to experience what you're writing about. Now, I'm curious, as someone that spent pretty much all your life recruiting people, and this is one of the things that I hear a lot and people that have been on the show, like people that have started a career path on a direction that maybe is not fulfilling, or that just go through the motion. Is there anything, like any wisdom you want to share into who you saw being the happiest, or what characteristics were you looking in someone? Just anything about the recruiting world that where you say your nuggets of wisdom that you could share.
I think my favorite part of that was when I was an in-house recruiter with System Software Associates, because again, I was engaging with people in the company. They were very inspiring people. The VP sales, Richard Morgan Evans, he was quite a character, and we just used to get to know these people. And because I was an in-house recruiter, paid a salary and everything, I had this sort of special place, not having targets, although to hire people, yes, but different from going out there and having to sell software. And I gained so much enjoyment out of that. For example, going to France once, Paris, looking for a country manager, and there were 2 candidates, and we wanted to hire both of them. And I was told, no. The one candidate, which I'm still in contact with, didn't know about the other one. And I said to Richard, you can't do this. I'm going out there and I'm going to tell both of them they are both here. And we hired both of them. And I've kept in contact with the country manager there, along with many other people I've hired. So it's not as if I've just dropped it. As for creativity, yes, I was obviously writing scripts, writing job descriptions and whatever. But that meant really engaging with people and sometimes meeting some of the dudes, a football star or something. And I got a book signed with happy head hunting. Yeah, I think that's it. But the main part is, I suppose, engaging. And also my kids. One still lives in Antwerp. The other one lives near Banbury. I'm a granddad, by the way, or grandpa.
Of how many?
Just one.
Oh, okay. Congratulations.
Beautiful baby girl. So, and the relationship is amazing. Also, we can't see anybody, of course. But my daughter, we have FaceTime pretty regularly, and which is a joy. It really is.
That's great. That's great. And I have to say, well, I think my father is older than you are. You're not that old, but my dad is 87. So he's, out there. And when he started his business, some of the stories were like, how we did this before email. Like, I remember he's Italian and we used to spend our summers in Italy. I was born and raised in Venezuela, where he immigrated to. But I remember him bringing people from Venezuela to Italy because they needed to complete a bid or a proposal. So the way before the email world was that he would bring one of his employees to Italy while we were vacationing so that he could stay there with us. And they would work through the day, and then he would be off to Venezuela and submit the bid. So, but now he has embraced technology very well. And, I think not to the point where he's on LinkedIn or anything like that. He hasn't retired. He still shows up to work every day. It's his company. But, I commend that, because you're very engaged in LinkedIn and you're very engaged, in also the social media platforms and you're publishing your writing through, online platforms. This is more that people, way younger do. So this has great credit that you have embraced technology.
I think, well, technology has always been my what I've been at all the time. Not that I would know what a gig is from a megabyte, but which I do really. But no, technology has assisted tremendously because I can, of course, type and then send everything instantly wherever in the world. And what also for example, Facebook or Zoom, LinkedIn, it means we can engage with people without thinking of distance. So the Atlantic is totally irrelevant. So when I have a FaceTime with, for example, Kimberly Davis, she is the author of Brave Leadership. I bought that book for my daughter. And also Carol Campos. We have FaceTime and we're friends, just decent, ordinary friends. And Andrea Clough also, we have FaceTime. And this is special because listening to somebody or exchanging messages on LinkedIn is live. It's not a nothing. It's alive. So even before you see these people, like seeing you at the moment on the video thing here, it's as if I know you.
Absolutely.
And this is technology. So distance is irrelevant.
I love it. I love hearing you because it's one of the things that I struggle with. And this, I'm in telecommunications. So, in a way, we are responsible for having the cell phone, people, when you see the kids with the cell phone and people say, oh my God, I don't know how to do with it because technology is overpowering this. And you feel, oops, I put the towers up that create that connection. So, and then I struggle because it's true. But at the same time, you see what the possibilities are and what we are able to do. I mean, if we think about COVID without this, it would have been an even more dreadful experience. Just what you said. Yes, we are in a bad situation, but we are able to see each other. You're able to see your grandkids. I'm able to see my parents who I haven't been in contact with for one full year, which has never happened, but we cannot travel to see each other. But there are people that they would say, I'm not for technology, and they completely rule it out,
I think in that case, because especially people of a certain age, they're not very often au fait with technology like Facebook. But I think if they sit with somebody, rather than having a course and being told what to do, is right, hold the iPhone, we'll go through it. So you see it live. And that has certainly opened up a tremendous door of joy, if you like. The curtain is open, and then you see your grandchild or your mum and dad or your kids. So that's wonderful. And as you said, COVID has changed everything. One thing I have noticed in Winchester, it's renowned to be the nicest place to live in England and the most friendly. And even before COVID, people would always say good morning, and they're, big smiles. But now people are saying even more good mornings, and they go to one side or the other to maintain the 2 meter difference. And it's so funny because we say to some people, we were polite before, but now we say, no, after you. No, I insist after you, which is very English, of course.
Yes. That's fantastic. Which, by the way, doesn't sound like it, but I did learn my English in England.
It does. Well, delightful American accent. In fact, I'm talking to more Americans than anybody else.
Yeah, well, I completely lost it. And when I went there, I regretted choosing the one town in England with the most impossible name to pronounce. Which is
what was that?
Bournemouth. You see, I cannot even say that. I was there twice.
Bournemouth.
Yes,
Bournemouth.
That.
It's a seaside. Yeah, Bournemouth.
Yeah.
When I lived in Birmingham, I was born in Birmingham. Where I lived was called Edgbaston. That's EDG. Then Edgbaston. Edgbaston is a correct pronunciation.
Oh my God! Yeah, no,
there are some funny names.
Oh my God! I chose it because of the sea. Again, I'm Venezuelan. I'm like, I open the brochure and I see this beautiful pier and the beach, and I say, this is where I'm going. Little did I know it was going to be 8 degrees Celsius during the summer. That's so much for the beach. But I really enjoy my summers there. It's just that after so many years, I can still not pronounce it correctly.
Bournemouth, yeah, because it's Bournemouth, but you pronounce it Bournemouth.
Oh my God,
it's very strange, I know.
Yes.
But here, I mean, the sea is, I don't know, about an hour away, less than that, I think. But walking out the door here, within 2 minutes, I'm in countryside.
So
and
beautiful.
I can walk 25 minutes and I'm outside the cathedral. And it's a unique city because from the very centre, you have King Alfred the Great statue. And you literally, 2 minutes, you are walking along the side of the River Itchen. You have hills, you have greenery, you have water meadows. And it's quite unique because it's a city only because it has a cathedral. And we can thank William the Conqueror for that, as I always tell my French guests, our French visitors. Thank you very much, William the Conqueror, William I, because he commissioned the cathedral. He arrived in 1066, and I think the cathedral was started about 1087 or something.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's one of the things, being married to a Dutch. And by the way, Antwerp is one of the most beautiful places I've been. Now that you mentioned that, it's your son that lives there or your daughter?
Sorry, where? In Holland?
Antwerp. Yeah, in Holland.
Oh, Antwerp. Oh, Antwerp. Super.
Well, yes.
I like the square.
You go everywhere in Europe, and there's history, like you breathe history. And that's one of the things me and my husband always struggle with. We love the United States. And there are some towns here that obviously have their history. And I love city, like New York City to me is my favorite city in the whole world. Like I love the energy and all that. But there's that flair of, pure history and where we come from in Europe that is just very, very special.
I think so. I mean, I've been to New York, Boston twice, and Chicago, because the headquarters of SSA were in Chicago. And Boston, fantastic. Went there twice. New York I've been once. But New Yorkers, I mean, everybody's so positive. That's what I like about the American culture. I think positivity is infectious. And Americans are always upbeat. It's a can-do attitude. So one quip I always use when Apollo 13, I think, it was, Houston, we have a problem. Mm-hmm. And then after I said, Houston, we have a solution. So, of course.
I love that. And, as we're getting to the end of our time here, I wanted to ask you, I know you went through your tough challenges. I read in one of your blogs, you went to a cancer scare and all that. So it's not...
Oh, yeah.
It's not, I wanted to say it's not, because people see positive people, and I like to think that I'm pretty positive as well. And people immediately think we don't go through anything, or you've always had it good, and that's why you're so positive. And in reality, some of the most positive people I know have gone through a whole lot of difficulties and challenges. And so I always ask, what in those dark moments, what do you connect to bring that positive out?
Tell a story about that. I was dragged into the doctors by my wife because men are never ill, of course. And because I've suffered what was called now a focal seizure, and it's epilepsy without the shakes and the foaming mouth, but it's like going glazed over. And the doctor immediately gave us a note to go to accident emergency at the hospital. And within minutes, I was admitted. And they were doing all sorts of tests and X-rays, CT scans, and they kept me in for 2 nights. I can remember the sticky toffee pudding; it's delicious. And a consultant walked in, and she said, "Well, we've got some results for you." I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, you have focal seizure," and I said, "What? What's that?" "Well, it's such and such, and you can take medication, no side effects," which I do. Worst thing, I can't drive anymore. But then I was told they'd done a standard PSA test, prostate-specific antigen test, and I had prostate cancer. And I said, "Oh, right. Okay, what's the cure?" Anyway, well, first of all, hormone injection. So, yes, I do empathise with women having hot flushes. In fact, we had some friends over from Germany who were swapping our experiences of hot flushes. Mine comes up from the neck. And anyway, I went and had treatment. I had hormone therapy, as I said, also radiology treatment. And when we went there were people with brain tumours, God knows what, and nobody was speaking. And we caught the eye of somebody. And in the end, everybody was chatting with each other, which is lovely. And I had the radiology treatment, and then ultimately I had to have a bone marrow biopsy, not an autopsy, biopsy. And I was told, "Well, do you want sort of gas and air?" I said, "No, women have gas and air when they're having babies. Good Lord." Anyway, I was given the pain-killing injection, and the doctor came over, and I said, "Look, is that a Black & Decker or a Bosch drill?" So my way of getting through this is humour. And the nurse said, "Well, are you sure you don't want?" I said, No, carry on. In the end, there were 2 nurses holding my hand, a sister holding my hand, and I was puffing at the gas and air like there was no tomorrow. And they said, "Okay, Mr. Lever, everything's fine." And I laid back and said, "Was it a girl or a boy?"
Oh my God! But then you recover, and then you spread positivity and hope around others that are suffering with the same.
Yes, because it's when you have such a thing, you don't realise that a lot of other men do. It's quite pillow is the wrong word, but it's quite a normal thing. And people were phoning me, and also at the hospital, what do you go through? Everybody's different. Some people have to have the operation, but I just had the radiotherapy. Fine, no problem at all. Thank God. So the blood tests are fine. So I enjoy going to the hospital. I always went to the ward that treated me, and the nurse there was French. The sister was French, and we always joked about the arrogant cafe in France, the Brasserie Lippe. So,
well, I think it's you don't hear that many people say, "I love going to the hospital," and it's just because you decide you love it. And I was listening to an interview with a famous poet, Maya Angelou, yesterday, and she was saying that she's like, "I enjoy getting old, because if I decide that I don't enjoy it, then I know for a fact that I won't." So she's like, "How you decide to like things, you can make a decision to like things even if they're not ideal, but that changes completely the mindset."
This is true. I write because I want to write, and I love writing. That's a fact. I like walking. I do power walks as much as possible, especially spring and summer. The one thing I do miss, as I mentioned, is my beautiful all-American Jeep Cherokee Orvis 4-litre straight 6. My son he loves American cars. He has a a real wrangler.
Nice.
But he also has a 1973 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're a family of petrol heads.
That's,
I suppose. But yeah, I used to love my Jeep, but I sold it back to the garage to the mechanic, the engineer who used to look after it. So at least I knew where it went. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, Simon. And I really thank you for your time and for sharing your stories with us. And I'm sure that a lot of people are going to check your blogs and definitely if you're out there, you want a positive take on something, definitely follow Simon's work. And, is there anything else, anything going on that you want to share that you haven't shared? Anything? You have an open microphone.
An open microphone.
Yes.
Right. What I want to share is, if it's possible, because I know people in COVID, they're living in multi-story flats, apartments, which I feel quite terrible for them. All I can say is, if it's possible, go down on the lift and walk, because that's what I do. If I'm feeling a bit, not 100%, I go for a walk. Not just to say hello to people, but it's therapeutic, especially if there's countryside. I know I'm totally and utterly spoilt in Winchester, because it really is amazing. It's history, it's everything. But to be able to, the freedom of walking in the countryside with no sound of cars, lorries or anything, and just looking around and just seeing the beauty of nature. So that's something I do feel close to. And what I do suggest to people, if they do get sad or even depressed, share it with somebody. Problem shared is a problem halved rather. That everybody's unique. Everybody is different. So if something works for me, it won't necessarily work for somebody else. But what I always write on many of my posts is never taken for granted life. It's some elderly gentleman who passed away, sadly, in the same area as this, said, we're on borrowed time,
Yeah. So, we are on borrowed time.
But I can't think of that. It's okay. I'm old enough to have my vaccine, although they haven't let us know yet. But it's just 3 minutes up the road is the surgery where they're giving the vaccine jabs. But was it 73? I think I am at the moment, something like that. But I do not think of age. Mm-hmm. To me, okay, unless I was totally disabled or couldn't move, yes, but I'm not. So I never take that for granted either. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think, and as I share, like if I see the example I have is my dad, 87, and he goes to work every day. He talks
goodness me
like he can start a new business tomorrow, and he always says, I need. If this was a soccer match, I need an extra time. If I had that extra time, I would do so much more. And I always admire that it's age is really. It's really a number, but it's really your mind and your spirit is really how old we are. There's 20-year-old people, 30-year-old people that they live their lives like if they were 90. And that is, the sad part. And that's hopefully with your blogs and hopefully a podcast like this and the many other things that we have available to us these days, we can help them getting unstuck.
I think so. I think Kimberly Davis did me the honor of calling me a beacon of positivity.
I love it. And I read that somewhere and I say, this is going to be Simon's episode name, because after chatting with you and even people listening in, I know they will agree that you are a beacon of positivity. And I'm so happy that you came here, and I thank you so much for taking the time.
Bless you, Letitia. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm totally honored. This is fantastic. I really have enjoyed it.
Me too. And when COVID is over and we can travel, I want a tour of that cathedral by you.
That would be wonderful.
That's a deal.
I'd be delighted and honored to escort you around the cathedral. I really
love
would.
it. Well, we have a deal, and that's something to look forward to.
Fantastic.
Great. Thank you. And until a next episode of Back to Basics.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And until the next time.